You've had such an awesome experience in sales as a sales leader, in particular, really a great skill at ramping up teams. I know at Zillow, you ramped a team in a year from 25 to 60. And then at Solve, you ramped a team from 20 to 120 in a year. What's your secret, man? Because that's tough.
Yeah, I think it's common language. It's something that, a lot of sales leaders, they use the frame playbook that what you just said is, make sure you create an everlasting and evergreen playbook that is simple and easy to learn, but that is sticky. And one of the things I like to do from the very beginning is make it clear on the persona that I'm looking for. You're not just selling one piece of it, you're selling the full experience and the journey. And it makes a huge difference. And I think it's really set us up for success. And it's a playbook that I've been running for almost 15 years back in my Trulia days, and built this playbook, and it's worked at all levels from entry level all the way up to the enterprise level.
Hey everyone, I'm Ed Kerr and welcome to the Sales Elevation Playbook. I'm happy to introduce Greg Davis from Evolve here. Greg's a Senior VP of Sales and Support at Evolve, and an awesome guy who went to KU, which is near and dear to my heart. My sisters went there and I live in Kansas. So Greg, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Edward. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be on the show and just dig into everything sales.
Awesome, man. Well, I was just speaking to you before we jumped on this show, and I know you just got back from Egypt, probably a little bit jet lagged, but went over there to see your team over there, who you mentioned are all really awesome and doing great and kind of aligned on your playbook, which is kind of where I want to start out, which you've had such an awesome experience in sales as a sales leader, in particular, really a great skill at ramping up teams. I know at Zillow, you ramped a team in a year from 25 to 60. And then at Solve, you ramped a team from 20 to 120 in a year. What's your secret, man? Because that's tough.
Yeah, I think it's common language. It's something that, a lot of sales leaders, they use the frame playbook that what you just said is, make sure you create an everlasting and evergreen playbook that is simple and easy to learn, but that is sticky. And one of the things I like to do from the very beginning is make it clear on the persona that I'm looking for. You would think, hey, you're in sales, so you're looking for a sales persona. And it's no, I'm looking for a persona that matches the culture. I'm looking for a persona that matches the market. I'm looking for a persona that matches the region, and make sure from there that the training and enablement is aligned to that persona. And as long as, that part is in play, the playbook runs itself. And it says that from the very beginning, we speak the same language, from the metrics to the KPIs, to the scripting, to the role play sessions. And then cadence is huge with me. So when I think about running a playbook, especially virtually now, you have to do it in a way that is consistent and simple to create with newer leaders. And so there's a cadence breakdown that I always go through with new leaders. And it says, how many touch points are you as a leader getting with your frontline teams every single week?
Yep.
And so, okay. And all right. So how many do you expect, Greg? And it's like, well, here's the thing. We're expecting our sales team, whether they're B2C, B2B, SMB, enterprise, we're expecting them to have a certain amount of touch points each day to be successful, because there's this thing called conversion. And so if you as a leader go an entire week without having a touch point with someone on your team, what type of conversion do you think you're having with developing them and helping them perform and digging deep into the way they work? And when you work for me, it's mandated that you have at least 3 touch points each and every week with your team. And so that's done in a few different ways, especially virtually now, because way back in the pre-COVID days when we were all in an office and you had everyone in just an office, it would be a daily touch point. But there's 3 touch points. It's a Monday kickoff, it's a Wednesday one-on-one, or Tuesday, Thursday one-on-one, and then a Friday wrap up. And so I am meeting with my teams. I see them 3 times a week. I have one-on-ones with all the individuals on my teams. For sales, I like to keep the ratios in that 1 to 8 range. And then maybe, if there's a team lead, I'll have 1 to 10. And the capacity for the leader, my expectation is that you're meeting with everybody individually and then as a team twice a week, and they see your face and you're cascading the vision that you have for them, not only for that particular week, but on Friday, the upcoming week.
Yep.
And Monday, you meet with your team, and then you also put it in writing, your expectations. And so that's a performance culture. It's high performance culture. It's the expectations. It's really, transparent with what you're looking for. Is regimented in a way that says, hey, we're not micromanaging, but we are saying each week, here's what success looks like. And it may be tied to conversion. It may be tied to, touch points, with your, inbounds or outbounds, what we're looking for there. But more than anything, it's saying, hey, when you're on the call this week, here are some things I want you to focus on. What we learned, so I'm going to take some role play sessions from last week and give them to you this week and say, hey, your opening needs to be a little different. Or last week when I, listening to your call, was your close wasn't as strong as it should be. And here's what I've changed for you. I'm going to put a little script together for you. I don't expect you to be a robot, but here's some ideas on how to close this week. That's my expectation for my frontline leader, and they're very successful. I expect them to be owners of the business, not just own the agent productivity, but the business productivity and the business outcome. And so that's very important. And then there's multiple layers there, of course, with senior managers and regional leaders, the directors of the business. And I just cascade it that way so that everyone is an owner. I'm a big believer in meaning, it's not just the business of Evolve where I work now that owns the numbers. It is when you work for Evolve, you're a part of the evolution and what we're trying to do. You're part of the success of the business, which means, hey, success for you is not only working with owners and making sure they're profitable, but you're also painting the picture for long-term success. You're talking about those things. You're talking about what it takes to, be a 5-star owner and, why guests would love to come to your property. You're not just selling one piece of it. You're selling the full experience and the journey. And it makes a huge difference. And I think it's really set us up for success. And, it's a playbook that I've been running for almost 15 years back in my Trulia days and, built this playbook and it's worked at all levels from, entry level all the way up to the enterprise level. And it's something that I just pride myself in and keeping the same standard. It doesn't mean it can't be updated. There's a playbook to follow, especially for external teams that are overseas and, all over the place. And it's been working.
That's awesome. And I love how you explained that kind of aligning the expectations of a sales leader with the same behavior of a salesperson, where it's those touch points, that cadence. And it makes
That's right.
I've never thought about it that way, but it makes a ton of sense, because if you're asking your salespeople to get out there and show their activity, right? And how many calls they've made and how often they've followed up,
That's right.
and you're not doing that same thing with your team. And I think it's got to be so challenging for so many sales leaders these days, because we're all so busy, right? We're all just inundated with noise. And I heard recently Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank was talking about he was an investor with Steve Jobs early on, and he mentioned how Steve Jobs was so effective at differentiating between noise and signal. And the signal were the
Yes.
things that he really needed to get done. And he said that the only person that's been better at that is Elon Musk. And so you think about the two most successful entrepreneurs in modern age, and both of them were very good at drilling in on signal, right? And anyway, I think it's for managers and salespeople, it's just there's so much noise, and you got to get into the signal. And I think managers that are not checking in with their people, they're missing the signal, because you got to,
Right.
right?
That's one from a persona, right? Back to the persona. When I think about hiring a manager, I'm not just looking for a manager who says, hey, I've done that before. I'm looking for a manager who says, not only have I done that before, but with my leadership experience, I roll up my sleeves and I'm willing to make phone calls with my team if I need to. That's sick. Is selling your team. Not only can you trust me and respect what I'm telling you as far as developing and being successful, but I'm also going to make a call with you and you can hear me, and I'm going to role play with you and practice with me. I'm not going to sit back and say, go do this thing, and I've never done it myself. And so when we show not just tell, but when we show that we have the ability to convert and talk to owners and role play, it makes a huge difference with our teammates. And that's mandatory to be a leader for my sales team. And so everyone is invested, including and still to this day, I call and work with owners. They have my cell phone. They call me. I want to hear from them. I want to call directly. My team is surprised at times because I'll call a new owner and I'll pitch Evolve to them. I don't ever want to be in a position where I feel like I have gotten to a point where I don't need to make sales anymore, right, or
Right.
call. And that's just a part of my DNA. And I think it just is something that, everyone understands. When you work for Greg, that's what you're going to have to do,
Well, I think that's awesome. I think when sales leaders and even the C-suite, when they lose connection with the front lines and they don't understand the challenges that the people on the front lines are facing, they have a hard time leading effectively, I think. You've got to be aware of, especially, leading a sales team, that playbook has got to evolve. I mean, it
That's
just,
right.
there are changes in the market. And so let me ask you this, with a team that's so spread out, like, how do you keep that team kind of consistently on? Are they on different playbooks, or is there one central playbook that everybody adapts or
Yeah,
adopts?
so when it comes to sales, there are a few key inputs there that simplifies the playbook. And where I'm going there is, one is the director. And so the director understands the vision and is operating with the same cadence and mindset that I have. And I hired that person, and that's what I developed, and make sure we're good there. And then the other is the learning and enablement side. And so when you think about training and upskill and, cross-functional work there, everyone has to be on the same page. It doesn't mean you can't make adjustments and changes. It just means, hey, what are the outcomes that we're looking for each week? And so when I say, hey, we have this new product and we need to update our scripting or update the way we pitched it to this, it's the same cadence from our training team. As they're meeting with the sales team, they understand that there's goals associated with this, and their outcomes say, hey, the playbook says you role play, the playbook says you meet, the playbook says, hey, here are the standards that Greg has in place. But it doesn't mean the way I learn, the way I teach can't change. So for example, the last time we spoke, I was mentioning AI, and we're embracing that to say, hey, I don't need classroom training anymore. This is not something that I need to be off the phones with. This is saying, hey, this is a 5-minute interactive video. You take it and then you're on with your day, which salespeople love. The last thing they want to do is be off the phones for an hour and some training. They want quick, simple, and easy. And what we're doing is building that in our cadence. So that means, hey, the playbook that I ran 15 years ago is not the same anymore. It means we're adjusting. We still have the cadence, we still have the touch points, but we're adjusting how we learn. And I think that's an important piece there to say, stakeholders, here's the vision, here's how we normally do things, but going forward, we have to learn differently. And that's what we've been doing with the sales team, and it's working for them as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw you had a background in product sort of development or
Yeah,
evolution, certainly, and you're someone who's familiar with technology. How
yeah,
so the AI is changing kind of everybody's work environment, right? In so many different ways. There's
right.
so many wonderful tools out there. So with the AI that you found now, how have you recognized that AI, and how are you using multiple tools, or have you found a couple that are really great?
Yeah, I think the first thing that, my leaders and I dug into was simplifying the training itself. So in this virtual world, for salespeople, it's, hey, I may go into the office once or twice a month, but I am working from my home, and that's where I'm most comfortable. And the last thing I want to do is go into a Zoom room for an hour and have someone lecture me on this new training or this, so okay, we had to adjust our thinking and our approach there. And one of my pushes to my teams was, one, why should it take an hour?
Right.
Nothing's that hard. And then two, how do we make it a self-serve? Meaning I can come in and I can learn this quickly on my own time, and then I can follow up with my managers on any questions I may have because of the product difficulty or whatever it may be. And my team Their feedback is, we love that so much more because, hey, you're saying, hey, let's make sure we get this done. It's going to take 5 minutes, get it done, and then work with your manager on the new updates and feedback there. And their feedback is, that's awesome, because what you're saying to me is, here are the quick insights, here are the quick indicators that say, hey, here's how I'm pitching it. And there's an example of a role play that my manager does. But that's easy for me, and I'm learning it quickly, and I'm off and running. Compared to this 20-page deck that someone's showing me slide after slide. And halfway through it, I'm already multitasking on my phone, and I'm thinking about the next call I'm going to make, or I'm turning myself off video, which means I'm disconnected. And, it's a work in progress, but the key here is utilizing AI for speed, for efficiency, but also connection. And last piece, the connection piece, it's an area that a lot of sales leaders are struggling with right now, because how do I build connection with someone I don't see every day? And so that the key there is, I'm making it simple and easy, and the ability to follow up on with the managers, and managers going right back to the playbook, which is the 3 touch points, following back up on it, and doing a role play based on this 5-minute interactive video that I learned quickly, and then back into it. And so involving your leader with the playbook, with the updates, is critical. You can't just go to them and say, hey, I expect you to know this. It is up front. Here's the opportunity. Here's the roadmap. Leaders, let's role play together. And then next week, you're going to be role playing with your teams. And it's so much more efficient. The teams love it so much more. And we're able to move with speed and energy and efficiency, compared to, oh my goodness, I got to go into this. And then you look, and you've seen it before, where you have 100 salespeople on a Zoom, and half of them have their videos off. And,
I know.
and so instead of me saying, hey, Greg says that, it's mandated to have your videos on, let's think differently here. Let's think of a different approach here on how we teach, learn, and train and develop. And we're doing that. And, the tools, we have the Gemini, that has been awesome. Gemini Pro. I'm not sure if you use that, but it is cool. It's easy. It's quick. It'll put together exactly what you're looking for. And then, the other, there's a couple of tools that we have with Salesforce and Agentforce, which is, it just quickly updates knowledge management. It allows for, hey, I'm just going to put in a keyword, and then it tells me exactly what I'm looking for to keep real time. And then, just what I'm doing now is making sure that my trainers are more end to end, meaning they own the full relationship of, hey, I'm partnering with product who's putting together an MVP, and I'm going to start working on what that looks like now. So that way, when it's ready to go, I already have everything built out, and we're off and running. So we're not delaying. We're moving with that speed. It's something that, most companies struggle to do, because they're so spread out and they don't communicate with each other. And then it takes a month just to roll out something new. And, we used to be there, and now it takes us 2 days to roll out something new.
That's
where
awesome.
2 years ago, it would take a month, right? And so those are the key insights for me that says we're growing in the right way, and we're adjusting with the tools that we have, and we're going to continue to double down on AI. We're going to continue to double down on the usage of quick and easy, learnings and speed and efficiency. And I think it's helping with our CAC, it's helping with, we don't need 50 trainers anymore. And I'm talking to a lot of my sales leaders like you, and it's saying, hey, you don't need all those trainers anymore. You can actually do it with half or a quarter of it, and be even better with the tools and efficiency that AI brings. And that's exactly what we're doing now.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a whole new era. And I would imagine, you've been
Yes.
innovative, and you've deployed a lot of different processes and methodologies and technologies, and improving conversion rates. I know you've had a great track record with that. What would you say, when you've had success in improving conversions, what are the main things that you would credit that to? And it's going to be a two-part question, because I want you to think of
Yeah.
a brand new sales leader who,
Mhm.
if you were counseling him or her on the things to focus on to get some quick wins on conversions,
Yeah.
and what's going to drive that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, when it comes to conversion, it is all about the opportunity and understanding the market, the North Star. So, for example, when as a sales rep, if you say, "Hey, I want you to make 100 calls," and the sales rep says, "Well, to who
Mhm.
am I calling and why?" And they make 100 calls to just anybody out there and they're trying to pitch, but the end user, the person that they're calling, the North Star, has no clue as to why or how. They're not a part of the marketing. They're not a part of the interest. They haven't given us permission to even pitch. And
Mhm.
so I always want to start from the basics is how do you gain permission? I'm gaining permission from two different ways. One is, hey, they completed an RFI, which means they're interested. That's giving us permission to call. So that's one.
Mhm.
Is when I'm outbounding, what's the trigger for permission with an outbound call? And that's where a lot of people struggle. And I gain permission a few different ways. One, it is based on who they are. So they're a business owner, they're in this market, they're a local, PM who is, you can see how they're engaging in their market. And I'm going to call to gain permission. And there's a difference between calling to gain permission and then calling to pitch. I call to gain permission before I pitch. Where you lose on conversion is calling a pitch. And so what I'm doing here is teaching this new leader on the differences on the audience and how to gain permission. RFI, I already have permission. I'm calling a pitch.
Yeah.
Outbound, where I don't have permission, I'm calling to gain permission. And that's how you increase conversion from there. So one, audience. Two, North Star, understanding your market, really being able to dig in on the persona of who you're calling and why. And then from there, it is as a sales rep, as a sales manager, I want to make sure that you've heard yourself on a call. So we're going to play back those calls. We're going to make sure you hear yourself pitch. We're going to make sure that the manager as well understands what we're looking for, inflection, tone. I'm human. I'm not just reading from, Greg's, script. I am a part of the product. I
Mhm.
understand the value. I understand the listening skills, soft and active. And more than anything, even though I may already have permission, I'm seeking permission to close.
Yeah.
And so through that sequence, we do a lot of call listening. We do a lot of rigor over and over to get the teams ready. And my advice is, when's the last call you made? How many calls are you listening to? Has the team listened to their own calls? Are we gaining permission, inbound, outbound? And if the answer is yes and yes, then I'm going to say, prove it to me right now. Make the call. I want to hear you. And I want to hear that we have understanding. And 9 times out of 10, which is what we've done, we have this year alone, we have doubled our conversion year over year just by trying new things, how we market, how we think about this gaining permission, right? It's one thing to go spend $1 million on leads that have zero interest in your business. It is, we want to be strategic with our marketing budget that says we are going after interest, high intent leads
Mhm.
that have already given us permission, which means we're not wasting time. We're not SDRs. We're not calling to just figure it out. We are paying these sales reps a lot of money. And in order to get our CAC down, we have to work with high intent leads. We pay for that, we convert on that. And we just changed the way we've thought about our marketing strategy, which used to be, hey, let's bring in a bunch and let's give the sales team 100 leads and we'll figure it out later.
Mm.
So let's give them 40 and let's convert 30 of those 40. And it has made a huge difference in our business model. One where the sales team would have told you a year ago, I can't win this business without 100 leads. There's no way. I need 60,
Mhm.
70, 80 leads a month to be successful. And coming into this year, I made it clear we're not doing that. We're going to give all high intent, which means you need to be high intent. You need to be on your A game, and conversion went through the roof. And
I
I
love
think
that.
those are the to think about. Yeah.
What you just I mean, you just described what sounds like to me like signal versus noise. I mean, you're right. You're
Signal.
literally right. I mean, you cut through all the nonsense, you cut right to the chase, right? And
It's I would tell all sales leaders, let's make sure that your sales reps are truly working from an ROI perspective. Are they just dialing to dial to say, hey, I got numbers on a board? Or are they dialing to engage and really make sure that they're working with the different pathways? So it's outbound, inbound. Do I have efficiency there? Do I have the ROI there? And it's taken a lot of work to get us to this point because we're double clicking on rep behavior and manager behavior and updating the playbook from there. And we've seen the results of it for sure.
and I love that perspective of gaining permission because, you know, it puts a salesperson in a state of almost a state of service, like you're wanting to
Well,
really, you know, be authentic and be helpful to that person. And immediately you're earning trust if that's the stance, as opposed to, you know,
that's
showing
it.
up and throwing up, right? So that's a
Right.
great, I love that way of thinking of it, of gaining permission. Well, and that's, I mean, and I think that's phenomenal, like really clear advice to a new sales leader is to kind of have that perspective. So that's awesome. So listen, so as we wrap up here, what would you like your audience to know about you, or how should they get in touch if somebody sees this and thinks, hey, I want to get in touch with Greg Davis, LinkedIn or,
Yeah,
yeah.
LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always responding. I'm available. I help out, different sales companies, and I'm always willing to come in and talk to your brand new sales leaders, especially startups where you're like, hey, I have a sales leader who's brand new to this, and I just need someone to guide them on how to just create the playbook or what it means to think about gaining permission and all the things, right? So I'm always available. And I think more than anything, I'm 23 years into this. I love everything. I still have the passion for sales and, it's in my DNA. I
Mhm.
started off on the phone early on in my career, and I'm going to end up on the phone later on in my career.
Right.
I love talking to people and I love interacting. And so reach out to me if you have any questions or you want to just conversate on what I'm doing to change with AI or any of those things. So I love it. I'll make myself available anytime.
Awesome. Well, Greg, man, thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll look forward to like, we should probably do a sequel and do version 2
Let's do it.
sometime soon.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
man.